Hi everyone, I am studying for CFA Level 1 exams and the subject which I am studying today is corporate issuer. I am making my notes for the exam purposes and for the purpose of my study, I am relying upon the CFA Institute material. Plus I have watched some YouTube videos. One of the video which I have used is of FinTree. So I am just going through the videos and I am trying to make the notes for myself for the exam purposes, and I will try to plot the related materials which I find appropriate for me in my study material. So this is the internal note which I am preparing, and I will be sharing my screen for the internal notes only. And is something that I will keep for myself for my exam purposes only. So I would like to go through the material and start reading. So I think one of the important consideration is for type of organization, which is your proprietorship, partnership, limited liabilities, LPs, GPs, your limited liability company. And after that, there will be something called as economic profit. So economic profit is the excess profit that you get from your equity. So if your economic profit is more than return of equity versus KE, if your ROE is greater than KE, economic profit is greater than zero. If ROE less than KE, your economic profit will be economic profits ROE greater than KE, EP will be greater than zero. ROE less than KE, EP will be less than zero. Then there will be double taxation if you are in type of corporation, and if out of the sales amount you will first pay tax at the corporate level at after your earning before tax, and at the time of distribution the company would also be paying tax. So there might be a double distribution, but some structures would allow you a pass through option, and investment will only be at one level. Then I think I'm facing some issue. Let me try to resolve that. Is there an option of pausing for a second? I think this material will be useful for me. Yeah. So let us go to the corporate issuer point first. Yeah, corporate issues is for first about the organization form, which is your prop partnership, your private limited company, public limited company, your economic profit, where you do a comparison between ROE versus cost of equity. If ROE is greater than your cost of equity, then your economic profit is greater than zero. If your ROE is less than your KE, then your economic profit is less than zero. There will be a question of double taxation uh, if you have a tax on your distributions. Then there are two type of projects, which is either your public project or your private projects. Then there is something pertaining to SPAC. Then it's about investor and stakeholder, your shareholders theory versus your stakeholders theory, your lenders versus shareholders. Then your lenders are not may have some negative covenant and some positive covenant. They might not be happy with the excess risk which you are taking. Then there is something called as principal agent relationship and the principal relationship. There is some concepts of shareholder activism. Then we have a working capital chapter where we have sums on the cash conversion cycle. For cash conversion cycle, what is necessary is your inventory turnover ratio, where your inventory turnover ratio will be COGS divided by average inventory. टर्नओवर के ऊपर नीचे आपका बैलेंस शीट आइटम आएगा और ऊपर आपका पीएनएल आइटम आएगा. इन द सेम वे इफ इट इज ए आर या तो एपी के ऊपर टर्नओवर रेशियो रहेगा, देन इट इज रिसीवेबल्स टर्नओवर रेशियो रहेगा, देन इट विल बी सेल्स डिवाइडेड बाय एवरेज ऑफ द रिसीवेबल्स. If it is AP turnover ratio, then it will be purchase divided by average AP. This is your turnover ratio. But your cash conversion cycle is days of inventory in hand, DOH, plus DSO, which is your days of sales outstanding, minus DPO, which is your days of pay outstanding. So your working capital cycle, अगर मैं बोलूँ ना, working capital cycle, it will be your DOH plus DSO. बट अगर आपका कैश कन्वर्जन साइकिल बोलेंगे तो इट विल बी योर DOH प्लस DSO लेस DPO. So we should put this in our formula book. Then uh, average if I say cash conversion cycle, I can put this in the screenshot. Cash conversion cycle, इसमें से अगर मैं बोलूँ कि मेरा वर्किंग कैपिटल साइकिल क्या है, WCC, ये देखो ये टर्नओवर है. क्वेश्चंस में टर्नओवर के ऊपर भी कुछ आया और अगर DOH से ऊपर आया तो हम लोग को हमेशा ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा कि कैश कन्वर्जन साइकिल के लिए हम लोग DOH या तो DSO या तो DPO लेंगे. वी विल नॉट कंसिडर एवरेज टर्नओवर रेशियो. देन देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड एज वर्किंग कैपिटल साइकिल. वर्किंग कैपिटल साइकिल के लिए आई विल बी इसमें DOH प्लस DSO ही करूँगा मैं. Fair enough? Fair enough. Then an implicit borrowing cost. The other concept is implicit borrowing cost. Implicit borrowing cost 2 by 15 net 45. So I will get 2% discount if I pay within 15 days. 2% cash discount if you pay within 15 days. Otherwise full amount till 45 days. तो 45 डेज का अगर पेमेंट साइकिल है, अगर आपने 15 दिन के अंदर पे कर दिया तो आपको 2% डिस्काउंट मिलेगा. उसका मतलब क्या, आपको 15वां दिन पे पैसा चाहिए तो इफेक्टिवली आपको 30 डेज के पहले पैसा पे कर देने के लिए आपको 2% डिस्काउंट मिल रहा है. ये जो 2% डिस्काउंट मिल रहा है ना, ये आपका 30 डेज के लिए, इट इज नॉट योर 365 डेज. सो इफ यू विल कंपाउंड एनुअल रेट जो देखोगे आपका आर पर एनम विल बी मच मोर देन योर 2% रेट. And if you are getting loan from the outside party at a rate per annum rate which is less than this rate which you have calculated per annum, then you should take the loan and make the payment and if that rate is more, then you don't need to repay it taking that loan. So आपको सबसे पहले n कैलकुलेट करना है, n डिवाइडेड बाई 365 जा करना है, and then you have to calculate the rate using your present value. 2/30 नेट 90 अगर होगा तो फिर आपको अगर 30 डेज के अंदर पेमेंट करोगे तो आपको 2% डिस्काउंट मिलेगा, और उसका मतलब 60 डेज के लिए आपको लोन लेना है और आपको रीपे करना है. इफ द रेट फॉर दैट 60 डेज इज मच मोर देन द रेट which the creditor is asking, then you don't need to take the loan. So I will put this also in my reference book, which I am using for my reference only. देन कैपिटल इन्वेस्टमेंट्स के लिए हम लोग दो चीज लेंगे. हम लोग नेट प्रेजेंट वैल्यू दिखेंगे, विच इज योर प्रेजेंट वैल्यू ऑफ इनफ्लो माइनस प्रेजेंट वैल्यू ऑफ आउटफ्लो. जो भी अमाउंट आ रहा है, जो पॉजिटिव अमाउंट आ रहा है, दैट इज योर नेट प्रेजेंट वैल्यू. एंड द IRR इज द रेट रिटर्न. It is the rate return at which NPV present value of inflow less present value of outflow is equals to zero. NPV will be greater than zero. IRR if greater than cost of capital. Then return of capital employed, ROIC देखेंगे. ROIC is equals to NOPAT divided by average capital invested. Return on invested capital, net profit after tax लेंगे divided by average capital invested, opening plus closing divided by 2. कैपिटल बजटिंग के दो प्रिंसिपल्स हो गए फॉर कैपिटल बजटिंग. यू हैव टू कंसिडर आफ्टर टैक्स अमाउंट, you have to consider incremental cash flow, and third you will have to consider opportunity cost. कैपिटल बजटिंग के दो प्रिंसिपल्स नहीं है. पॉइंट जो रेलेवेंट है वो है आफ्टर टैक्स अमाउंट कंसिडर करना है. वी हैव टू कंसिडर द अमाउंट ऑफ इंक्रीमेंटल कैश फ्लो एंड वी हैव टू कंसिडर द अमाउंट ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट. Your capital structure is an important point that we have to see. Capital structure is an important point that we have to see. Your cost of capital depends upon your cost of equity, then it is your cost of debt and your cost of preference shares. So your cost of capital is your cost of equity, your cost of debt and cost of preference shares. So cost of capital will include cost of preference shares, cost of debt and cost of preference shares. So this is your capital structure, includes तीन amount: cost of equity, which can either be calculated based on CAPM, which is your risk-free rate plus beta into equity markets premium, equity risk premium, and your beta will be what? Covariance of stock with market divided by variance of market. Then your second point of calculating your cost of equity will be Gordon's growth model, where it will be D1 upon P0 plus G, where your KE is equal to D1 next year का dividend, which will be D0 1 plus G upon P0 plus G. ये जो आपने calculate किया, that will be Gordon's growth model, plus आपका BYRP, which is your bond yield premium, या तो YTM plus equity risk premium आप add करो. Your cost of debt will be your YTM. Your cost of debt will be your YTM 1 minus T. Your cost of debt will be your YTM 1 minus T. And the cost of preference shares will be your preference dividend divided by market value of the preference shares. हमेशा याद रखना कि आपका इक्विटी शेयर्स विल बी योर KE आप मल्टीप्लाइड बाय वेट करोगे तो आपको वो एक पोर्टफोलियो का वेट दे देगा, या तो ओवरऑल कॉस्ट का के WACC दे देगा, वेटेड एवरेज कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल, वेट इंटू KD प्लस वेट इंटू KE प्लस वेट इंटू प्रेफरेंस शेयर। बट जब आप KD कंसिडर करते हो ना, आपको क्या करना है, YTM1 माइनस टैक्स कंसिडर करना है। Then we have Modi-Gilani-Miller formula, who said that your value of firm, no tax, value of unlevered firm will be same as the value of levered firm, but it is with taxes that the value of levered firm is a value of levered firm plus debt multiplied by tax। तो इसको एक अच्छे तरीके से हम लोग रखते हैं, your no tax value of unlevered firm is equals to your value of levered firm, but with tax your value of levered firm is equals to value of unlevered firm plus debt into tax। Now, the second way of looking at it is more detailed. Your cost of equity is equals to original cost plus cost of, it is equals to your cost of debt plus KD minus KE into D divided by E. So that's how you make this particular formula. But if there is a tax, in that case, you will put KD plus KD minus E into debt equity ratio 1 minus tax. That's the benefit of cost of equity with tax। ना उसका मतलब ऑप्टिमल कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर कौन सा होगा, आप हमेशा डेट लेते जाओगे। नो, देयर विल बी अ पॉइंट इन टाइम वेयर द वैल्यू ऑफ एक्स्ट्रा डेट दैट यू टेक इज गोइंग टू डिमिनिश द ओवरऑल वैल्यू। So you will have to take a debt maximum to that exchange in which you are getting the maximum valuation, and your cost of taking the debt is not overpowering your value of equity. So that's the maximum stage at which you will the take the debt, which is also called as your optimal capital structure। वैल्यू ऑफ फर्म अनलीवर्ड अगर एक है 100 100 100 100, डेट जो आपका टैक्स शील्ड है वो है 20 30 50 70 लेस कॉस्ट ऑफ फाइनेंशियल डिस्ट्रेस, क्योंकि आपको लगता है कि ज़्यादा डेट लोगे तो आपका फाइनेंशियल डिस्ट्रेस हो सकता है, तो आपका वो कॉस्ट भी ऐड हो जाएगा। तो जब तक आपका डेट टैक्स शील्ड आपको ऐड कर रहा है माइनस आपका, जब तक cost of financial distress is not overpowering this value, till that extent you can take the benefit। Example in this way case, the optimal debt structure will be C। Now, what is the way in which you should use your cash? It is called as pecking order theory। What way you should use your financing? You should first focus on your retained earnings, then you should focus on your debt, and then you should issue equity। And after this, there is something pertaining to your business cycles। अब business cycles पे we have studied this in several chapters। Now let us read this in detail।
In a public company, or do you think it's better to do that project in a private company? Public means listed, private means unlisted. Is it better to do it in public or private?
अगर 5 से 6 साल का प्रोजेक्ट है,
Now, it's very interesting, but it's true. And this is all.
should you do it for a public company or should you do it for a private company? I think the answer should be in a private company.